Hello, my name's Karen Holline, and I am here to talk about my beautiful son, Jason Fulton. And I'm going to show my picture because he was a gorgeous young man. Jason was born in 1970, and soon after his birth, we found out from bruising that was spontaneous that he was born with hemophilia. It was a tough diagnosis to hear. I was a very young mom nursing and in the hospital, and they told me, and I had never heard of it before. I didn't know what it was, and I was assured that there would be treatment, and at that time it was entire units of blood, and it was very difficult to be treated. Cryoprecipitate was a frozen product that I had to wait at blood bank and wait for it to be delivered into the Central Valley, and decided to take that on myself and advocate to get that at the house and learn how to do the infusion so he could live a normal life. I was working with the disabled community at the time, and all about them having a very robust and normal life, and I just knew Jason would too. And it became much more possible after we began infusing with Factor 8. It was far less laborious. We weren't tied to the freezer. We were out and about. Jason played soccer. He was so competitive. Loved sports. He played soccer. We are big snow skiing, water skiing family. We got to go camping. We were no longer tied to the freezer. We just saw a full life ahead, and we were so excited for him. It was through the course of, he was just so smart in many levels. He was very interested in medicine and science. He loved basketball, could shoot three-pointers till the cows came home, but he couldn't play competitive sports because of the hemophilia. So through the great fortune of families coming together and advocating, families with hemophilia advocating in the Central Valley for a pediatric hematology clinic, because we were driving to LA and having to go load up a car with tourniquets and syringes and this factor. We needed it at home. After we got this clinic, it was so great. We were able to have great support, treatment. I then got introduced to, through a mutual friend, to Ron Adams at Fresno State, and Jason began to work the basketball camps. He was managing that camp and the team, and just very involved. So it was just a great life. He had a great life with the aerospace industry. His grandfather flew the 747 that carried the shuttle. Just a wonderful childhood, a great young guy. And little did we know about HIV. We just were always worried about screening for Hep B and just advocated for that. And when we heard about HIV, it just felt something separate from what we were, treating. And then we learned that we just felt like it was not had anything to do with our Factor 8. Then we learned that we, in fact, were being impacted as a community, as a family. We're very concerned. Jason, though, handled, every day so positive. He never complained about a thing. He just had a great, great attitude. He lived a full life, but I think the hard part was that when we found out this was coming down, I think it was harder for me. He was so brave for me. And I think it was like the early 90s, I began to ask him one time, Jason, do you think you should be tested? And he said, no, Mom, what do you think? And he knew we were all going to be impacted. And even knowing that his life would be short, he pursued his pre-med studies. He even posthumously graduated. But he wanted to go to school to become a pediatric hematologist and or a pharmacist so that he could help other kids living with hemophilia. They all looked up to him, and he was teaching that whole hemophilia community how to infuse, and he wanted to continue to help them live the full life he was living. It was a long drive for us to UOP. We went for an interview about his graduate work, and I think Jason knew he became symptomatic late in his life time, and was only really ill for about 1.5 years. I mean, but it was a tough time. It was hard for, I think, as many know, it was a real difficult time. And I would just say that little did we know, that we know the government knew, we knew pharma knew now, we know the CDC knew that we were infecting our children. And I think today is an opportunity, not only for me to tell you Jason's fabulous story, because he was a terrific guy, but for me to join the whole greater HIV community, the hemophilia community, to tell the story of hemophilia and to hopefully not have this happen again to future generations. And I need Jason's life to count. He was a terrific guy, and he was a great man of faith. And we even stopped the meds towards the end because he made that decision, and then he had these great days. And I remember, and his buddy Mark Helm said, "Jason, wouldn't this be great? We just really believed, that maybe God's just gonna perform a miracle here and you're gonna just live." And Jason goes, "Would that be so great?" He knew where he was going. He's a strong man of faith, and I think that's some degree of comfort for me, that I know I'll see him again, because that's my faith. But I to survive this, I often think if God said to all the little moms of hemophilia that suffered like I have, would you take this beautiful boy and I'm going to give you a son that's going to give you the greatest joy in your life and the greatest pain in your life. Will you still take it? And I'll tell you, yes. I would take this beautiful young man again for the greatest 24 years I think I ever had. And I just want you guys to continue to fight the good fight, and be sure that this kind of incubated disease doesn't take lives like these darling hemophilia kids and all these poor dear people with HIV and AIDS. This is just too important a cause, and I'm grateful for the time today to tell my story. And I appreciate you guys remembering Jason and this effort, and all the other beautiful young men that lost their lives and struggled with hemophilia. And now you have such great treatment, and I'm just so happy for you that you didn't have to struggle like we did. And I really pray that the future generations are going to continue to live that full life that we wanted Jason so desperately to live. And I just thank all the organizations coming together. They're going to take me on my first trip to the AIDS Memorial Grove. And after 20 years, it's my first chance to really feel like I had the strength to tell a story today. So I appreciate you putting up with my emotion. He was just a great young man, and I just really want to encourage this entire community to please keep doing everything you're doing so that this doesn't happen to future generations. Thank you.